just to say welcome to Fully Booked. So this is another episode of Fully Booked Meets. You hear myself, Mace, and obviously my co-hosts.
French. And Andrew.
And Andrew Pops. And here we have Catia. So Catia, I always like to clap my guests in and just thank you for joining us. I hope you're well.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So thanks for joining us again. I was really intrigued and interested in kind of having you on, as we all were, because I mean, it seems like you've got quite a bit of back history to yourself. And one of the things that I've seen or focused on is that you've now kind of set up this kind of, or you call yourself a mumpreneur, and you've kind of got this network or this group around you that you help to coach and mentor. And amongst other stuff, I know that you're a nurse by trade, by kind of profession, obviously entrepreneur, marketer. And I just want to focus on how you've risen to get to the kind of status of mumpreneur and the foundation or founding your company as it goes.
Okay, so it was cutting a little bit, but I understood your question. Okay. So my journey through entrepreneurship has started a little bit back. I am Portuguese, born and raised, African descent, and came to the UK when I was 19. You know, in an adventure, you go and explore, and you want to study because I wanted to just do it alone. So I went to study business. So that was my first point of call. And my dream then was to work at the Twin Towers. So halfway through my course, and I already had my best friend that was going to come with me to New York, and we were going to make it there. And, you know, the dream was all sussed. Halfway through the course, 2002, September 11. So that was a shock, obviously, for the world. And on a personal level, it just deflates your balloon. That was your vision, that was your dream, that was your drive, right? So the course didn't make that much sense anymore. I've gone through the motions, done it, but it didn't make sense. I then started working on a couple like medium, small size companies, and you know, it was back throat. You know, everyone was trying to climb, stepping on the next person. And again, you just think, okay, I can climb fast, that's no problem. But all I'm doing is lining the pocket of someone else. I don't see any human value to what I'm doing. And I just got completely deflated. I'm thinking, you know, there's no heart in this. In order to pay for my studies when I was doing business, I was a healthcare assistant, because back then, being a EU student, you didn't have the entitlement of a student loan. So I was doing crazy hours as a healthcare assistant from hospital to hospital to pay for my studies. So the nursing bit, the nursing bug, my mum being a nurse as well, was always in the background, was always there. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to go and become a nurse, because I can see that I'm helping people. I can see immediately what I'm doing. It doesn't matter whether they say thank you or not. You can see the difference. And there's a lot of human value in that. So I did that for a number of years, and I enjoy it. But fast forward, you know, quite a few years, I was then pregnant with my second baby, which I called my miracle baby, because, you know, no one expected Baba to come. And mid-pregnancy, I was diagnosed with cancer. I was really sick, some sort of something that happens that no one until today knows what made me so sick and what made me become septic. But then because of it, and I'm so grateful, they found the cancer. So obviously there's a lot of turmoil, you know, being very sick, not knowing whether you're going to make it, whether baby's going to make it, you know, saying goodbye to an unborn child, saying, do you know what, I think I must have failed you somewhere because I don't think we're going to make it. It was hard thinking about your older child and thinking how life is going to pan out, you're not going to be there. It was hard. But then the moment that you start getting better, you start thinking, okay, I'm happy with my family life, but if I was to die then, was I going to be happy with what I accomplished professionally, with what I did, with how many lives I touched, with, you know, how much of an impact I created? And my answer was no. You know, I thought, you know, there must be something more. And I had an epiphany where I thought there must be a possibility of doing business with your heart in it, that you have to be, you know, passionate about what you're doing, and there has to be a way to help others while you are doing business. So that was my question, and that became my quest, trying to find out, you know, how I could help others in business, and, you know, do what I love, with a business hat on. So that was me. That was how I got to my journey.
Cool. And so, how did you become a mumpreneur? How did you? And what? Do you have a name? Do you have a name for your company? And what's the name of that?
Okay. So, as a coach and mentor, I'm doing it under my own name. So, Catia Kicks.
Okay.
I do have a company that I'm starting, which is Striverlinks. But that's in the background, because normally I'm thinking, okay, if I'm doing the coaching, that's what I'm doing. And then I have Mumtrepeneurs Crown Network. And that's the network that I have on Facebook as a private group. There's a page as well, but it's mainly the private group. And this is where everything happens. This is where I'm getting all of the different mumpreneurs. You know, though I say it's mumpreneurs, if someone says I'm a single mom, and you know, I don't have a job, but I'm just doing the business, or if someone says I don't have children yet, but I'm doing business and work, I don't exclude. I don't, you know, I don't say no. I'm sorry, this is not for you. My message is primarily focused towards mumpreneurs, but I'm happy with whoever gravitates towards the group. So we have men in the group as well. And yes, so this is where I do a lot of my work. So mainly is to do with coaching, to helping, supporting. The main thing is I want those women to share more of what they know and more of their journeys. And normally in interviews, we tend to get the celebrities and put the limelight on the celebrities and say, this is the celebrity, see, this is what they've done. And I'm doing it differently. I'm thinking, do you know what? We can all be celebrities in our own right. So I'm putting the limelight on the member, on the mumpreneur, and saying, do you know what? Tell us about your journey. Tell us what got you to the point that you got to. Because there's different people on different phases of their journey. There'll be people who haven't started a business yet, and they're thinking, is this for me? There are people who have just started, and they may be going through a challenge or another, and just listening to someone and how they overcame their challenges may be just enough of a trigger to say, do you know what, I can do this. Or to say, oh, you know, someone else is doing MLM, so multi-level marketing, and they have a challenge. Oh, Catia just interviewed someone that does MLM and they're doing really well. Let me reach out to them and find out if they can help me with this particular challenge. So it's mainly just to focus on, you know, helping each other, sharing skills, resources, and drive, supporting each other, motivating each other through our journey.
How many people have you got within your network at the moment? Roughly?
At the moment, it's 153. So it's a baby group,
Yes.
and it's growing quite fast. And yes, it feels like a family at the moment, which I hope is a feeling that carries on. And every week I'm doing a live interview on a member, and we're exploring their journeys.
How can you tell me about like the challenges you had in getting it started up and running? Because you had this idea, you want to have this network, you want to be able to coach and support, and you want others to be involved in this network. How did you start to build that network up? And what's the interview process like as well?
What's the, sorry?
The interview process about what's it like? What kind of questions are asked in that process?
What, in the interview? Okay.
Yeah.
So the first thing when I decided that I was going to set up a business, I wasn't still quite sure what shape or form that was going to be. So I took a 30-day challenge in online digital marketing. And that really just kind of supercharged me onto my path. So within a month of doing that, because I have first created a health page. So I have a page on Facebook called Unchain Your Health. And I also created my blog and my podcast on it. So within 1 to 2 months, I had already started everything. But because my health page relates so closely to my cancer journey, I don't feel that I'm ready to monetize it.
Okay.
So I thought, no, there must be something else. And then I thought, you know what, mums, I would love to help other mums to do what I'm doing. And because I'm one step ahead of someone else, I can always say to them, this is what I've done to get to where I am, you know. And then, yeah, I created a group for mumpreneurs. And then it was just a case of, you know, the people who you gravitate towards. I participated on another challenge, which was a 23-day challenge, Rise Up challenge with Pete Vargas. And that's all about improving all the 7 different areas of the life. And that was a whole new blueprint, the way it was done. And at one point, I think there was about 600,000 people in that group. So you have 600,000 people all driven towards something and trying to improve themselves. So the moment that I put a message saying, look, I'm a mumpreneur, juggling this and that and the other, would love to connect with a few other mumpreneurs, I suddenly started having quite a lot of feedback saying, oh, do you know what, this is a lovely idea, I would love to do that. And so it started. You know, I had a group that I had repurposed the moment that I realized that that was what I wanted to do, and it just took off. So obviously behind it is always a lot of work, but that's how the motion started, basically.
Cool. I know you've gone through how essentially mumpreneurs works, but I wanted to kind of like break it down a little bit. So when obviously I came in contact with you obviously via message as to, I think it was you wanting to interview people, and
Yes.
kind of breaking down obviously the process and how people can join your page. When people join your page, is it a case of them solely wanting to be a part of the network, or is it a case of when they become part of the network, then you kind of like have an interview and like an interview structure, whether they're suitable for what would be the group?
I think it tends to be a case of either or. The main thing is connecting with a person. So I put the fillers out there and say, do you know what, I have this group and it's to do with networking mumpreneurs. You know, would you be interested in featuring? Would you be interested in joining? So once the person shows an interest, obviously I have to have a chat with them to find out, you know, what their journey has been, if they would have an interest, because some people just join not because they want to go and be featured in the interview. It could be just because they want to be in the network. So I find out with them what they want to do and what they want to get out of it. I have someone that I'm due to interview next month, and she wants to be interviewed. She has a business and she's doing well, but she doesn't have any experience in being interviewed or, you know, in putting herself out there in that capacity. So I'm doing some work with her in terms of, you know, knowing how to identify her backstory, you know, working with her on the kind of things that I would be looking to get out of a guest. So questions tend to be, you know, like we started here, how did you get into the entrepreneurial side of things? What was your trigger? What's your story? You know, and a few other questions. So it's either that the person comes to the group from seeing a post or from seeing you know, some adverts that I've put somewhere, though I'm doing organic ads at the moment, or, you know, they come to me and say, I want to be interviewed, and then we go through the process of finding out, you know, what that would be like with them, for them.
Cool. I have a number of questions. I don't want to throw them all at the same time. One was, I don't know, you might be able to answer them at the same time. One was essentially, is it only yourself obviously doing the coaching, and do a number of people kind of share their experiences? Because I think obviously what you're doing at this moment in time, I think there are a number of women and mums, and as you said before, it's not just women who are involved in a group, men as well. Is everyone quite free by way of expressing obviously how they feel and how they got involved in the group? And have things changed with COVID at all? I'm not too sure if you were meeting collectively at a location or whether it's always been remote.
It's always been online. Because obviously my health, and though I'm much better, I still have some niggles and pains and things. So for me, the remote side has worked perfectly. And in terms of the skills that the people bring to the group, it's open to a degree. So I don't have a problem of having another mumpreneur that does exactly what I'm doing with her own group, being in the group, right? So I don't have a problem with people, because people may say, oh, Catia, you will be fantastic to be my coach, and I think I'll work really well with you, but I may not be the coach for someone else. And I need to make sure that they have the space to choose who they want to work with. So it's more a case of showcasing different skills and different resources within, and people then making their own judgments and making their own decisions.
I think that's quite a good thing you say that, as to you're not the only individual people look to by way of looking for mentorship, also because there's a number of people, or as we know, obviously we live in a big wide world where everyone's got different skill sets. So the fact that you're not the only individual people look to by way of mentoring is quite good. I was going to ask you, like, can you give an example of what maybe, I don't know, the structure of mentoring or coaching obviously will look like, obviously in your forum?
That depends. So basically, if a person approaches me individually and says, you know, I'm struggling with this, can you help me? Then that's what we're going to work on. And that could be a number of things. That could be marketing strategies. That could be overall, you know, business strategy, as in, you know, getting clear strategies for the business. Or that could be increasing their online presence and managing the day-to-day side of things. That could be from a mum's perspective, time management in terms of juggling all the things that we have to juggle. So it depends basically on the person that comes to you and what they need from you.
I think like you're in a, I mean, I hadn't really thought about it before, but you're in quite a, I'm going to say a niche stroke unique position, but at the same time, I think it's quite a broad space in that I think there are a number of, I'm going to say women, because it was mumpreneurs, who, you know, really want to be active by way of, I don't know, being entrepreneurs or be creative, and sometimes it can be quite isolating. I know people can sometimes feel isolated by way of time, or thinking not necessarily they can't do something, but they haven't got the support network.
Yes.
So, I mean, with the stuff that you've been through, I mean, are you willing to maybe go through some steps, let's say, or words of encouragement by way of, I don't know, because you spoke about being in abusive relationships. Obviously, you went through a divorce, being a single mum, and you spoke about obviously your pregnancy. Some of the things you may say by way of advice might differ, but is there anything that you can offer by way of advice?
Okay, so for me, what has helped me through a lot, first off, is God, right? Because I don't think I would be able to get through a lot of what I got through emotionally and physically without God's support. The second has been the support network. And whereas before with, you know, what I've been through with the previous marriage and everything else, I did a lot of the things alone, and you just kind of forge your way forward. Because normally when a person gets married, they never get married to get divorced, right? So there's a bit of shame attached to it. So with that, you just forge your way forward, and you just try to kind of keep your head down and get it done. But obviously I appreciate that it's not the same for everyone. my the nature of that relationship, it wasn't so much physical, but emotional and financial. So I think there's a different dynamics to someone going through, for instance, the physical side of things. But what I would say is, you know, you have to do what is right for you when it feels right for you to do so. In terms of the cancer and the high risk pregnancy, my biggest support on earth is my husband, has been my husband. He's been above and beyond, and you know, things went really, really, really crazy for a bit. So for other people, I would say get your support network. And my advice is your support network may not be where you think you will get it, because sometimes I thought I was going to get it in the places where you normally think, like, you know, immediate family and so on and so forth, and sometimes that's not where you get it. So get your support where you can have it. The other thing is decrease the amount of negativity you have around you, especially when you're going through something like cancer, because it's all about the mind. You have to keep your mind sound enough to get yourself through it. It's your journey first, and though your immediate family goes through their own journey, you have to find a way to go through your journey before you can support everyone else in theirs. And that's, you know, that is different for everyone. But it goes something as simple as who you tell you have cancer to, you know, because some people will go like, oh, you know, all you have to do is, you know, drink parsley juice or something, and that will go away, you know, and that may not be what I need to hear at that particular moment in time. So you need to streamline who you are sharing that information with.
Okay, go on, Pete.
Sorry, French. I was going to say, just obviously we're a book podcast, so we'll probably talk about books, and because you seem quite structured by way of your mindset. But I had one more question in regards to essentially the mumpreneurs. Success will probably differ by way of, well, it will differ from my truth be told. It could be, well, yeah, success differs. Like, have you got an example of, I don't know, a success story? And as I say, obviously, success will differ from someone just changing their mindset and going from a frown to now smiling and so on. There might be success stories of someone beginning a business and now being very successful. Have you got an example, any kind of example maybe?
My examples or examples of people who I've been supporting?
I mean, it could be yourself, but I mean, anyone else.
Okay, so for me, my biggest success is when I'm supporting someone and I see the difference in them and they go like, oh my goodness, you know, thank you so much because this is amazing and now I can do this and now, you know, I've gone over a particular barrier and thank you so much, I couldn't have done it without you. For me, that's amazing to see how much they can accomplish, and to see them forge ahead. You feel like they're almost like your little children and you're rooting for them. I know it sounds a bit patronizing, but in the heart side of things, you know, you want everyone to do well and you're rooting for everyone's first steps in things. For instance, to see, because I do the coaching and I do the mentoring as well. And my difference is mentoring tends to be people that I know in some capacity. I may or may not charge them. In the case I'm not. And I'm choosing to mentor young women who I feel that if when I was their age, if I had that kind of support, that kind of mentoring, I could be further ahead in life. So I want to give someone else what I didn't have. So it's a bit of, do you know what? Let me make someone's journey a little bit easier if I can. So to see their steps and to see them developing and doing things, that's, for me, that's brilliant. So for me, that's success. That's how I measure my success.
French?
You said you wear quite a few different hats. So you do mentoring, coaching, you've been a nurse, you've been a entrepreneur.
Still a nurse.
Still a nurse. Out of all the hats that you do wear, what is most natural to you?
Gosh, that is such a big question, because even within the business side of things, I'm doing graphic design as well, which I never knew I could do until I started doing. So, and started my hand at video editing. So the moment that I remove barriers for myself, then I start uncovering new things. So that's such a loaded question. I think anything to do with helping the next person is where I gravitate towards. So that's my aspect of the nursing side. That's my aspect of the coaching side. Though coaching has a little bit of a separation, because in coaching, you don't give all the information. It's not like a nurse, you go into a patient and you say, do you know, here's your medication, you know, the traditional nursing role, because even nursing has evolved. But with coaching, it's a bit more of, you know, what is it that you want to accomplish and how do you think you can accomplish that, and keeping them accountable. I can give them some resources and say, have you thought of looking here or looking there? But it's still mainly the person, and it's initiated by them, and the work is done by them. The mentoring, I consider that it's a bit more supportive, and it's a little bit more holding their hand through the process within the stage that they need their hand being held. But yeah, no, it's where do I gravitate towards, and what do I feel I do best? I guess as long as I'm helping someone, that is my thing.
Cool. I know you've mentioned like the kind. Basically, I want you to define what a mumpreneur is, like, as a definition. Could you explain? It can be this, it can be that. Like, as a definition, how would you?
It is a very recent term, right? So it is a junction of entrepreneur and mum, simple as. The difference within that is that it is identified as mumpreneurs, or as mums being entrepreneurs. We have a different dimension added onto the mix. Because traditionally you consider a man to be an entrepreneur, the wife may be at home looking after the children. But what if you have to look after the children as well as forging ahead with business? So suddenly you can't do a traditional 9 to 5 if you have a day at home, because you still have the kids to look after. So it is, you know, starting work maybe when someone's gone for, where your youngest children have gone for a nap, for instance, or doing some more work when they are in bed. So it's recognizing that there's a lot more time pressures and a lot more hats to juggle within that. Doesn't mean to say that traditionally entrepreneurs have not been women who have managed those, but it's recognizing that there's a lot more within being an entrepreneur when you have those other hats on.
Okay. And I know you've mentioned men are in the group, but is there assistance wanted, and how can they assist?
At the moment, as the group is still small, it's just evolving organically, right? Some of the men in the group are men that I look up to in regards to different aspects. So for instance, I'm a marketer as well, and I do affiliate marketing. It's not something that I'm actively doing. It's something that if someone says, do you know what, I have this particular problem, do you know of anything that can help? And if there's a product that I've tried myself and I think, you know what, I've tried this, why don't you have a look? As long as they know that I will have a commission from it if they choose to pursue it, then it's fine. But for instance, some of the men in the group, they are more targeted towards marketing side of things. So it's whoever gravitates towards you, because I have women in the group that are nurses as well. So there's no particular, you know, there's no one size fits all. My message normally is primarily geared towards, but I'm happy to receive anyone that can come into the group and feel like they can gain value from it. And in terms of assistance, I think only time will tell. At the moment, I'm able to do everything. I have a moderator in case, you know, there's some horrible post or something and I hadn't seen it and she sees it first. But at the moment, there's no assistance per se. As it grows, it's something that I'll have to consider.
As P mentioned earlier, we are a book podcast, so we are going to speak about books at some point. But I guess, yeah, leading into that question, is there any particular book that you found most helpful with all the I guess, the hats that you do wear?
Yes. Okay. So the first one is a book called Boundaries by John Townsend and Henry Cloud. And, you know, through the different stages of life, you always struggle with having to do more for people and sometimes not having the expected response back, and how you deal with that. And that could be on a personal level with family members, and that could be, you know, defining your boundaries with work, because with my high-risk pregnancy and the cancer initially, with work I had some challenges and I had to kind of you know, climb the ladder in a way, to say, do you know what, this is something that I need to be I needed to be addressed properly. So and had to at some point get the union involved in things like this. I think I put it down to the lack of experience in the matter, you know, not having had to deal with someone with my situation, but still those are things that at the time, those are challenges, right? So you find yourself pregnant and with cancer and high risk, and you're having to manage expectations from, for instance, a ward manager that needs to meet certain expectations in terms of service management. So that is a book that I found absolutely brilliant, and I would recommend it to anyone. Because the other thing is, when you're Christian, a lot of people expect you to give, and the moment that you decide that you're not going to give, you're not being a good Christian. And that book completely debunks that within, you know, the Christianity side of things, with the support of the Bible and the references. So it's something that I would recommend.
Oh, Miss, I thought he was going to ask the question.
I was going to ask, and in relation to the networking, the network you have and the group, is there any books that help you with that side of it in terms of, for instance, you mentioned that you might assist someone with their time management in being a mum and trying to start, set up, or...
Yes. Oh gosh, there's so many now. Time management specifically, there's one, but I can't remember the name. But there's so many. There's, for instance...
I was going to say, I'll rephrase the question. So in terms of you, when you've recovered from cancer, and then you kind of said to yourself, what could I give back? If I had passed, what have I really given back? What have I done with myself? Was there any books right then and there that helped to inspire you to set up your group and to set up your networking, to set up Mumtrepeneurs? Set up as a Mumtrepeneur, should I say?
Gosh, no, I don't think it was a book per se back then. It was the challenge that I was recommended to take, the 30-day challenge. Okay. So that was, because at the time I was still quite dubious as to, you know, you don't have answers. You have loads of questions, you have no answers, and you don't know how that's going to pan out and which way to turn. So that challenge was amazing because it was bringing a lot of people with the same mindset. And as they go through the online digital marketing side of things, a lot of your questions start being lifted. And sometimes it's just giving yourself permission to dream, because we always have our dreams, but it's whether we allow ourselves to go there, right? So the moment that you think, okay, do you know what, if I could just try and aim for my dreams, then, you know, how would I get there? So that's what that helped with. In terms of books, one book in terms of my journey, one book that I would definitely recommend is Miracle Mornings by Hal Elrod. And that's all about, you know, how you structure your mornings. And it's proven that if you have a good routine in the morning, then if you will win your morning. And if you win your morning, you'll win your day. And if you win your day, you'll win your week. And that is definitely a book that I would recommend reading.
Oh.
Ooh, it's frozen.
No, it just.
Okay.
I was going. So we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Okay, now I can hear. Yes.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, sorry, no. I was going to ask. I mean, you referenced two quite, I would say, quite powerful books by way of them having obviously foundation. Obviously, one in relation to religion, obviously in boundaries, and oh my God, I just forgot the other book you just mentioned.
Miracle Mornings
That's
by
it.
Hal Elrod.
Yeah, so another book that has a lot of structure as well, and I thought that was quite. I think it was quite important, actually, to be fair. I mean, I was just thinking, I don't necessarily know I still don't know whether I'm a morning person or whether I need time to actually get into my day. I mean, I imagine I'll continue working obviously deep into the evening, whereas this morning I think I started quite slowly. In fact, no, I woke up early actually.
Do you know what I would say, what I would recommend, because I'm not a morning person either. Okay. However, the trick is, if you start putting some routines of things that you can do, you know, some people will start their day with, you know, writing their gratitudes. Others will start by praying. But if you start creating your little routine, you will find yourself ticking the boxes. And the more you tick boxes, the more you feel like you've accomplished something. And if you start your day feeling like you have accomplished something, and this is why I think, was it Denzel Washington or someone, I can't remember, was talking about making your bed in the morning as part of a motivational thing on YouTube, which is the moment that you feel you've accomplished something, you will feel more empowered to accomplish more. So it's not so much about being morning or evening person, because I'm a self-confessed evening person. I used to work a lot more in the evenings and do more creative work as well. But it's about shifting and seeing whether you can get more from your day by doing so. So I would say, try it and let me know.
That actually leads on to actually what my question was, as to, I mean, you've referenced Denzel Washington, obviously, and the book we're speaking about. Are there any other references you have or you provide to other people? Because you seem quite knowledgeable by way of books you've read. I mean, I imagine there's quite a lot of things we probably haven't uncovered by way of you've actually read.
There's not as many as I would have loved to, but then, yes. In terms of non-fiction still, I would say Traffic Secrets by Russell Brunson, and that is for people who are starting businesses and have a business and are thinking, do you know, how do I work this whole social media, and how do I get social media to work for me and to generate clients? Because though I had studied business before, the whole scene of how to do business has completely shifted, and it has been exacerbated by COVID, right? So that's another book that I definitely recommend. If it's someone that is just starting and they don't know where to start, I would say Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert. I can never say his surname. Kawasaki. Yeah. So yes, Kawasaki.
Yeah, no, something. Yeah.
But it's one that I absolutely love. There's plenty. There's one that is on my next read, which is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So no, there's quite a lot of books out there that will, you know, in terms of the business side of things, it will help you, will get you focused on, you know, your motivation. The other one is the highly, oh gosh, the of highly effective people. What is it? The 7 habits of highly effective people. Yes, I forgot who by, but yes. But there's a lot of books in terms of, you know, if someone is wanting to start and they don't know where to, and what kind of reads will get them, you know, the structure and the mindset, the motivation. Those would be my suggestions.
I've got a couple other questions, slightly different topic, and they're both kind of non-related. First one being, because I know that you said you still work as a nurse, and I know that you've recovered from cancer. Have you worked during this pandemic as a nurse? Or have you been?
So yes and no. The reason why I say yes and no is because my letter came in late, you know. So I was going to work. Obviously, I wasn't doing the clinical work because I had been recovering. So I wasn't, you know, I still don't have the stamina to do a 12-hour shift as I did before. So I was doing office work within the hospital. So when the whole COVID happened, my anxiety levels, as you can imagine, because obviously having 1 kidney and having been so sick and being septic and things in the past, you can't stop but worry about what can happen to you if you catch it. But I went to work, and I was supporting, you know, the trust within what I could do. At the time, that was completely crazy. And then my letter for shielding came. I think, what was it? I think end of June, beginning of June, I think it was. And then I've been shielding since then. So yeah.
And the other thing was, because I know that you said you were studying because you're kind of, before your lifelong dream, ambition, goal, target was to get into the Twin Towers, and obviously 9/11 happened. If you could go back to a 15-year-old Catia, what advice would you give now that I don't know how old you are, let's say 26. What advice would you give to a 20?
Oh, you're very kind.
What advice would you give to if you could go back now to your 15-year-old self?
Do you know, this is a very, 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 very good question. But I think the biggest thing, and it will have to do with the biggest challenges that I'm finding now. Because if I had to talk about biggest previous challenges, I will have a whole big list of advice that I could give. But in terms of challenges now, I would say, you know what, don't worry about mum guilt. Just do what you can when you can, because that's one of the things that I will face, and I face, and other mumpreneurs face a lot of the times, is if you are spending more time with the business, you feel guilty that you're not spending as much time with the kiddies. And then if you're spending time with the kiddies, you feel guilty that you're not putting any time in the business. So that mum guilt is not, there's no solution for it. All we have to do is work with it. There's things that we can do to mediate, but I would just say to young Catia, when it comes to that, just done is better than perfect. Just do what you can, and forgive yourself for what you can't do. The other thing I would say is that fear of starting something, the imposter syndrome. You know, you feel like, oh, I'm not going to be any good at doing things. Or, you know, why am I even trying this? You know, I've not done it before. I would say forget about that, because no one is good at anything until they start and practice and fail a few times. So if there's something that you want to try, just try it. Tomorrow is not guaranteed for anyone. So I would say, if there's dreams in the pipeline, if there's things that you're thinking you want to do, just start one step at a time and do it. Those are the things that I would say.
Not to put a downer on the conversation, but you've mentioned on your bio that basically you cheated death over 1.5 years. Could you expand on that a bit, please?
Yes. So that was my septic episode.
Okay.
So we went to Portugal to celebrate our wedding. I was in my first trimester of pregnancy. The celebration was beautiful and it went fantastic. And about 3-4 days after, I was having quite a lot of pain. And this was in Portugal, mind you. And though I'm Portuguese, because I came here when I was 19, it's not your comfort zone, right? I could easily go to a hospital here, but there is not my comfort zone. So I started having quite a lot of pain, and obviously you start getting concerned that something related to the baby. And then I was vomiting really violently, was getting dehydrated, and I felt like I wasn't feeling right. Quite a lot of nights I felt like I wasn't going to make it. So went to the hospital there. The first time I approached the hospital near the holiday place, we'll give you some antibiotics, some fluids, and send you packing and pain relief. When I looked up the medication, one of them I couldn't take in pregnancy, so I just thought, no, forget this one. So I had the paracetamol. And then the following night, within less than 24 hours, I was getting worse. So got to the hospital again, and still not much being done. And we cut the holiday short within the place where we were. And we went to my mum's place. And that night, I was in such a state that I remember saying to my mum, I'm not making tonight. So she just put me in the car, whizzed me through to the hospital where I was born. And, you can't help but think, why here? I don't want it to be where it started, that is where it's going to end. They couldn't initially, they couldn't find out what the problem was. They did all sorts of tests. They had to put a tube, a nasogastric tube, because they were thinking that the vomiting was so violent that I could induce a miscarriage. So it was really grim, and that was the first day that I was in that hospital. And then the second day, I hit rock bottom to such an extent I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't keep awake. I had the other ladies more heavily pregnant than I were helping me, because it's like the nurses sometimes get a bit busy. And I felt that I wasn't going to make it at all. So hence that part about, at times all I could say was, help me, Jesus, because I didn't have the strength for anything else. So that was cheating death a couple of times right there. Then the next thing is when you have a cancer diagnosis, you have your life flashing through your eyes. 18th of December, a few days to Christmas, baby in your tummy, a lot of promise, because you're thinking about, this Christmas, baby's in your tummy, next Christmas is going to be baby, and and then the cancer diagnosis, and that kind of just floors you completely. You think about your mortality, you think about, because at that point you don't have any answers. You don't know if it's fast growing, if it's aggressive, or if it's slow growing and it's not, whether you will be able to see the pregnancy to the end or not. So yeah, that was those episodes there. And then obviously you go through a big operation to have an organ removed. And though I've done it for patients or with patients, a lot of the times you take them to theater and you say, you know what, everything's going to be fine. Tell me what you're going to have when you wake up. Are you having tea or coffee? Because I wanted them to know that I feel secure in the knowledge that they're coming back. But then suddenly it's me. And then suddenly, you remember all the scary stories about people going under the anesthetics, and whether you will wake up afterwards. So those were my interesting episodes, and the times when you get to kind of see life flashing through your eyes.
Okay, I mean, it's said that when you have a near-death experience, you also have a new lease of life. So what would you say to someone that they haven't cheated death, but they should consider living so? Like, what advice would you give them?
Sorry, that they haven't cheated death, but I missed that bit.
But they should be living like they need to. So what advice would you give them?
I would say, do you know what? Tomorrow is not guaranteed. Sometimes people go through their journeys and they have a horrible cancer diagnosis that will give them a prognostic of like 6 months. And in a way, if you think about it, considering that we don't know if we're going to all wake up tomorrow, it gives them a bit of time to kind of prepare and do things that they haven't done, and you know, create their bucket list and things. But in actual fact, we don't know what will happen to any of us tomorrow. So I would say, you know, aim for your dreams. Don't take no for an answer. Try something new. You know, if you were to have a death sentence, like, what would you feel regretful of not completing? What would you feel regretful of not doing? So then focus on that and just go and do it. And that, if that's still not enough, I would say get books on mindset.
Good answer. Any other questions, boys?
No,
not for myself.
Oh, sorry, go on, Lee, sorry.
I said not for myself.
Okay.
And yourself, P?
No, I don't have any more questions now.
All right, cool. Well, we're going to finish off, Catia, but we like to play a game called Dope or Trash. Now,
what is that? Tell me again, because I miss it.
It's a game called Dope or Trash, and basically the emphasis is, you know, the term "don't judge a book by its cover."
Yes.
Well, essentially, we flip it on its head, and that's exactly what you're going to do. So I'm going to name out a list of books, and just based on the name strictly, I just want you to say whether it's dope or trash. Do you understand?
Ooh, yeah, okay.
All right, let's do it. Natives.
Natives.
Yeah, dope or trash?
I would say dope. I'm imagining all sorts of stuff in there. Yeah.
Of Mice and Men.
Of Mice and Men. Or I would say dope.
Meditations.
Oh gosh, I would say dope.
Sleep.
What is it?
Sleep.
Sleep.
Yeah.
No, we all know we need it. Trash.
1984.
I would say trash. Only because, nah, come on, we look forward.
Okay.
I like that.
The Diary of a Young Girl.
I would say, I hope that young girl has been through a few things. Then I will say dope.
Cool. The Little Book of Common Sense.
Ooh, totally dope. It's in high demand, that.
Shoe Dog.
What is it?
Shoe Dog.
Shoe Dog.
Shoe Dog.
I have no idea, so trash.
And the last one, The Book of Catia's Life.
Oh, dope. Very dope. Watch this space, I should write one. But yes, there's loads of episodes in there. There's not episodes, chapters. Loads of chapters. It's more like a soap opera, but hey, yeah.
Yeah, we look
forward to reading it.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Catia, do you want to just, because obviously this gets aired on YouTube and it will be out on like all your usual platforms, SoundCloud, Spotify. Do you want to just but do you want to just provide your platform and how people can reach you?
Yes. Okay, so you can find me on Linktree, so Catia Pontes Kicks, and you have all my links on there. And you can also find me on, you know, the main thing is Mumtrepeneurs Crown Network. So that's the private group on Facebook, and that's where all the magic happens.
Excellent.
So yes.
All right, cool. Thanks for joining us, Catia. So
Pleasure.
yeah, just for the listeners out there, obviously fully booked, full_e_booked on the Instagram, and then yeah, that's for all the social networks essentially. The boys are laughing because I always mess this bit up, but I know that once the video goes out, he will upload a little post on there on the video which highlights all of our social listings, platform listings. All right, but thanks for joining us, Catia. It was a really interesting conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
I was really honored to be here. So thank you very much.
Honored to have you. Thank you again.
Story.